Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Bull. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. Welcome to the Wolves Fancast preview show for the FA Cup third round against Bristol City. I'm your host, Jafo. And again, I apologise straight away. If I'm sounding a little bit different than normal, I'm not a Sean Dyche tribute act. I'm just a little bit under the weather still with everything that's going on at the moment. Joining me tonight to talk about the Bristol City game, I've got Dean, Gav, and Josh Lem. I'll come to you first, Dean. How are you feeling? How you excited about the FA Cup? You know, the magic of the FA Cup. Are you excited to see how Vita Pereira takes this one?
Yeah, I am. I do like especially the early rounds of the FA Cup because you go into them with a bit of no pressure, like because you've got all the how heavy the league is at the minute. Having tomorrow where you're going to see some more of the fringe players, which we got a glimpse of against Forest, but you'd expect a lot of them to get games again, as well as some others that have been on the periphery. So you go into the games with less expectation and more excitement, really, more than anything is the way I look at them, especially these early rounds before they get a bit more serious and there's less on the line. You're not that bothered if you do go out, but you're just going and you're just going to enjoy the day and enjoy seeing some players you don't usually get to see in the league.
Most definitely. I mean, FA Cup always has some great memories. I mean, in recent years, obviously we've done well, Gav, with FA Cup and get to semi-finals and that. What's your sort of like number one Wolves FA Cup memory?
I mean, last year's was good, wasn't it? Albion away. I mean, that's going to take some topping, really. I'd have to say United at home, quarterfinal. It's got to be that, really. That Jota goal. I think everyone just lost their shit, didn't they, when that went in? Yeah, so it's that one for me.
Oh, definitely. It's a fantastic night under the lights. All the South Bank as well with that mural was fantastic. Josh, FA Cup is always quite special for everyone. This game sort of it has its potential banana skins, but this can be a great, fantastic game to bring in some of these younger players, isn't it? And is there anyone going straight into sort of what we're expecting? Is there anyone that you're excited to see play other than say Agbadou or?
Yeah, I love the FA Cup, I do, and I have a thing where every year I convince myself, and not even as a joke, like I fully convince myself, right, we're actually going to win it this year, every single year without fail. But yeah, I'd like to see Bostin. I'm not sure how exactly to say his name. Miepu, I think it is. I wouldn't be against seeing him come into the team. I think Semedo's still injured, so I'd assume seeing him back at Pedro Lima, back at right back, right wing back, which I thought he played all right against Forest. Vitor Pereira apparently thought otherwise, but I'd like to see more of him. And other than that, I can't really think who else there is, really. Maybe Luke Cundle will get some minutes, but not if he's going out on loan, but mainly just Miepu and Lima.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, Dean. I mean, those watching on YouTube, there's the Forest starting 11 from last week. You wouldn't think there'd be massive wholesale changes going into the game, but in theory, you could have a back three of Alfie Pond, Emmanuel Agbadou, and Bostin Murepo. That would be a real interesting turnaround, and to actually have three centre-backs playing one game together, given our current situation of injuries, would be quite the turnaround for Vita, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. I think I don't know what the plan will be for Pond. I think if anything, Miepu will come in, but I think it'll probably be one. If Agbadou, I think if he plays, he'll either come off the bench or he'll just play the first half. But looking at the centre backs, I think it's good to have those changes again. I'm not too enamoured seeing Sam Johnston between the sticks. I'd rather he just go now. Like, it's quite clear Sarr cemented that first number one spot. So having the rotation and having him as a cup goalkeeper for 10 million quid and a pretty hefty wage probably isn't the right thing to do. But yeah, back to the centre back. Sorry, I've digressed there. I'm happy to see the rotation because, like you said, first teamers, we're not particularly blessed. So if we can see the second string, so to speak, play tomorrow, I think I'd be happy to see that anyway, just to get a look at them more than anything.
Yeah, and I think a good point bringing up Sam Johnston. Obviously, he probably will start tomorrow, and it will be his first start under Vita Pereira. But Dan Bentley's the man who, he must be sitting there thinking, I've got a chance here to play against my old club, go there, enjoy it, and show I can actually still, be a useful goalkeeper. So a couple of comments in the YouTube section here. Paul Bentley is what I'm thinking must be fuming by Maximus Roy, and a penny for Dan Bentley's thoughts. What do you think about the current goalkeeping situation, Josh? Because, it's frustrating because we've got two potentially first-team Premier League goalkeepers. And then you've got a guy, like I say, it's his ex-team. He's obviously a good enough goalkeeper to play for a high level of championship. What must be going through his head?
Well, I think even by the end of the summer transfer window, Bentley must have probably been thinking, well, I'm here to be number 2. I've accepted I'm just a number 2 and I'll play the odd cup game. But now there's 2 keepers ahead of me. So what's going on here? And if Johnston is to be moved on this January, I just don't get the point in playing him tomorrow if the rumours are true. Like, just either play Sarr or just play Bentley. What's the point in playing Johnston if he's most likely going to go this January?
Yeah, I think it's frustrating, really, because like Josh says there, Dean, if Sam Johnston is going to leave, is there much point, 1, cup tying him, and 2, standing in the way of, say, Dan Bentley's 1, happiness, and 2, potential progression as well within the side, and having somebody who's going to be here longer term and having him game ready in case Jose Sarr picks up an injury?
Yeah, I think you probably will see Sarr gets the weekend off completely tomorrow. I'll be surprised if he's even travelled. You may find that Johnston's starting, Bentley's on the bench, but I do agree with the Bentley kind of the narrative there because he was Bristol City's captain up until he refused to sign his new deal and they sold him to us. So he's going to have a bit of a bit between his teeth, a little bit chomping at the bit to play tomorrow. But it's all just a bit messy. The whole goalkeeper situation in general, it's just a bit off.
So, talking about debutants and who might play, Emmanuel Agbadou obviously signed now, Josh. He's ready to be involved. He's done all his media work. Is he somebody you're excited to be involved with and somebody you want to see him play minutes? Because obviously I don't know a lot about him, and I don't know a lot about him, his background, but he looks like somebody who's confident, who wants to play football. Is he somebody who's going to make a big impact at Wolves, do you think?
I won't pretend that I know a lot about him either, to be fair. The only thing, I think a great way to gauge whether you've signed a good player is to go onto Twitter and look at the club you've bought him from, their announcement of selling him. And if the comments are all fuming that he's been let go, chances are you'll probably be all right. And the Reims fans they didn't seem happy at all that have sold him. So I'm expecting him to be a decent player. We needed just a body who is competent at playing centre-half through the door, really. So if he's anything more than that, then that's great, I suppose. From the things he spoke about, being a leader, how he's been a leader like since he was quite young, really, and how that's one of the main reasons he's been brought into the team. I think it's talking a good game, but I don't know, at the end of the day, all we can do is give him your back in and just hope it works out well on the pitch.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want to come back to a question that's been in the YouTube comments and Facebook as well from Craig Hathersmith. AFCON, he's somebody who'd be involved with Ivory Coast. AFCON is 21st December 2025 till 18th January 2026. So it's not something we need to worry about just yet. We've still got at least one more transfer window, including this one, to worry about before we get to that one. The other player we touched on briefly, Dean, is Bostin, and we haven't seen a lot of him because obviously when he came in, he got an injury, so he's not even been on the bench. he looks like an absolutely huge player and a huge unit for somebody so young. He looks like a linebacker.
Yeah, he's a big lad, but like a lot of my kind of research into him was YouTube and clouded by Football Manager, on which he's a wonder kid on. So, but he's left-sided from memory, so you could quite easily tomorrow line up with Bostin one side, Agbadou maybe not go straight into the middle, maybe on the right, and then have a Santi or someone in the middle. Then you've got a nice, well-rounded three. Then, because obviously we haven't seen Moipu play too much, but I know that Agbadou's decent on the ball as well as his physical prowess. Santi, more of your ball player. And then if you just kind of have that in there, it'd be quite interesting to see that dynamic between the three of them. And I know today Vitor was talking about Agbadou, how he's got that kind of, he can progress the play, he can start the attacks, which he's already said he wants from his wide centre backs. So that'd be good. But yeah, Moipu is he just seems a bit of a monster, doesn't he? And he's got really high rep when he was back in France. He's also got that aggression, as his debut showed, where he got sent off after like 9 minutes or something silly. But yeah, it'd be interesting to just see him, because obviously he was injured when he got here. So it'd be good to actually see him in a Wolves shirt. I caught him a little bit when he played, I think it was a half for the under-21s, and looked good and assured, as you'd expect someone who's ready for kind of man's football to look in the under-21s. But it'd be good to see him properly tomorrow if we can.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be great to see more of these younger players in. I don't think there's going to be too much of a surprise being thrown out by Vitor tomorrow. But the one thing I'm not sure is looking at the players that we've got available, Josh. We haven't really got a curveball to throw in up front, have we? I mean, we've got Strand Larsen, we've got Hwang. We haven't really got a second choice out-and-out striker available, have we? So what are you kind of expecting him to do with his front three that he's been playing? Who are you expecting to start there?
Yeah, I was thinking that, and I know there's been a few links to different centre forwards over the past few days, but there's not loads of options. One part of me thinks Strand Larsen, he tends to look knackered after about the 65, 70 minute mark. Maybe it's worth giving him a rest tomorrow. The other part of me thinks maybe his confidence is a bit knocked after Forest. If he can get a goal against Bristol City, it'd do him the world of good. So I don't really know, to be honest. Hwang as well. I don't know how solid the rumours that West Ham want him are anymore, whether they're still interested. But is he going to want to be cup tied if he's potentially moving on? I'd probably just start with Strand Larsen and just, if he starts blowing, there's no point keeping him on, as amateur as that might sound. But
yeah, I think so. I think there is a few players there who want minutes. Carlos Forbes being one of them. Doing, he's somebody we've not seen a lot of, and we've also got the problem of how to solve a problem like Jean-Rick Vellegard, and he's somebody who's not really found his feet in this side, has he? Is he somebody, where do we get the best out of him?
I think at Strasbourg, he was the front of a midfield three. So he was the more attacking eight, but he also drifted out wide, and he did play on the wing for them as well. So he's played out on the left a bit, but I think he was more when he comes inside. So I think it'd be good for him to get minutes tomorrow as well as Forbes. But then you've also got Sarabia as well. I can imagine JSL probably will get a rest. He may well, there we go. He may well start Guedes up front because he seems to really like Gedge. So he may get a run as the 9 and then have Sarabia and Forbes either side. But then you might find that JRB plays a bit deeper, because I don't think Doyle did well. But then how fits Andre? Who do you want to save for Wednesday? And then you've got the Boubacar Traoré conundrum, who looks like he's back in training. So does he come back in on the bench and get 45 minutes to ease him back into first team football? I don't know. I wish I had a camera at the whatever hotel they're at tonight, so we could see who turned and who's travelled and who hasn't.
No, definitely. I think it's tough because obviously we have such a good squad now, and wanting to get the sort of minutes for everyone, so everyone's ready. Depending on injuries and stuff, so everyone can hit the ground running if they come into the side. So it's going to be a tricky one for Vitor. Looking at this weekend, Josh, obviously FA Cup third round always has the chance for an upset. I mean, looking at there, I mean, my eyes are straight away drawn to the Tamworth game. But are there any other games there that you're excited to watch and hope for a giant killing?
I've put one of them. I think it's like lucky 52s or something, where you put like a certain amount of teams, and like if two of them win from any two combinations, I think I've picked Tamworth, Morecambe, Salford, Accrington, Stanley, and two others I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But Tamworth at home, I mean, for Tottenham to beat Liverpool and then lose to Tamworth is a very Tottenham thing to do. The Salford Man City game, potential cause for an upset there just because it's a Manchester thing. But I don't doubt that someone big will go out to someone that they shouldn't, and that's just the cup, innit? I look forward to seeing who that is.
So it's so the eve of the FA Cup doing. You're going to bed. Which team would you support on that list? Where you're going to bed, you're going to have night sweats. You're worried that you're going to be an embarrassment coming out this weekend.
I think if I was a Palace fan, I'd be a bit worried because Stockport have been doing all right in the league, haven't they? So they're not going to be fearless going to Selhurst. Obviously, the Morecambe one, you got the attraction of that, but I think even just the lesser giant killings, like you look at Norwich playing Brighton at home, that could be a Prem team that gets knocked out quite easily. But I do love Dan's typo on this at fixture 15, where you've got kind of a 2-0 built into West Bromwich.
I didn't want to say anything. I was just waiting for you to bring that up because I thought that was a nice little touch by Little Dan.
It's a good little touch, that is. But there's a few on there that could kind of, even like Luton going to Forest. Like Nuno has said in the past with us that he hasn't really prioritised the early rounds towards the end of his tenure. Remember that? Was it that Southampton game? Was it where he changed a completely different team because we played them in the cup a couple of weeks later?
Yeah.
So I think Luton are going to fancy their chances there. And then, I think Peterborough at Everton, if they've still got, I know Moyes is close to being kind of done deal, but if they've still got Seamus Coleman and Leighton Baines involved, Peterborough could fancy their chances there. I think other than that, the Tamworth one, like at Tamworth, Spurs go in there, this really small ground, and you can it's got that cup feel, hasn't it? And you've got a few kind of tedious links to Wolves in there on some of the Tamworth players. So I think that would be the one that if you wanted it to come off, if you were like that, if you could, as a neutral, that's the game you'd pick for the upset to be, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it would be probably one of the biggest upsets of all time in the FA Cup if they went out. Looking at sort of past FA Cup third round ties that you've been to, Josh, do you remember your first FA Cup game at all, or do you remember what's your earliest FA Cup memory as a Wolves fan?
I think my earliest memory that I actually have a vivid memory of, not just I kind of remember that game happening, is when we beat Liverpool in 2017. Okay. And I don't know why, because that's really late into my life. I should remember games before that, but that's just the one that the first one that I remember. I can envisage the goals happening, and then the Chelsea game after that. I think that's my first memory.
What about you, Dean? Please say it's like Newcastle or something.
It's a bit further back. It's exactly that. It's Newcastle. It is that Newcastle game. I probably did go to FA Cup games before that, but as Josh said, when you've got the vivid memory, that kind of under the lights at Molineux, you've got big Newcastle who were kind of pushing Europe at that time have come to Wolves. Wolves have got people like Paul Ince, and then we resorted Bellamy and Shearer to sheer kind of near enough tears. My hatred for Craig Bellamy was born that day, and it was massive. He's just an absolute tool from that day onwards. We beat them, and he's on the pitch pointing to the Premier League badge. I'm like, mate, we've beat you. Just take it on the chin, take the L, go away. But I was I think I was sat in I think it was J9 or J10 around them. And that was the first time that I really come away from a game. And for more or less the whole week after, I had my shins were a mess from the celebrations and stuff. That's my kind of most furthest back. My memory's atrocious anyway, but that's one that really sticks with me. Kind of that game, you felt like we were on our way up that season as well, and it was a little bit like, you know what, if we do make it, we can stay there. Obviously it didn't turn out that way, but it gave you that belief as a fan, and like if we continue this and we can get ourselves up through the playoffs or whatever, and you kind of it was a very like it was quite a cinematic season in general that year was. So 03, so I was like, what year? I'd have been in like year 10 or something, which is like crazy thinking I was still at high school about that long ago. But yeah, that was a really vivid memory for me.
And the iconic goal in that game, obviously George Ndar, he's a bit of a cult legend. I won't ask you too much about him, Josh, because I don't think you know George Ndar too well. But obviously you'll have good memories of George Ndar, Dean, and him being this sort of iconic footballer, so ungainly.
Yeah.
But what a player.
He defies the laws of physics because his legs were that thin. Up until Mahrez, I had never seen a footballer with legs as thin as George Ndar's. But he'd turn up, he'd have really skinny legs, he was a really skinny guy, long sleeved, collar up, the Doritos shirt. Like that is like George Ndar. And now there's like someone pretending to be him selling IPTV on Facebook.
Such a strange. I don't know how we went down that tangent, but we did. The hosts, I was going to say the visitors, but the hosts for the weekend, obviously Bristol City, a team that have done well in the past. They've had some good players. Is there anyone you're worried about going into the game, Josh, that might affect them? I don't know how much you know about the squad who's at Bristol right now.
I was about to say, I really hope he doesn't pick me here because I'm trying to think if I could name a single Bristol City player, and is Naki Wells there? I genuinely don't know.
To be fair, I was specifically going to ask about Naki Wells in the next question. So you preempted me. So obviously the guy who must live in the Bermuda Triangle, because he never seems to age, is Naki Wells, the Bermudan forward. I mean, he's always had a good record against Wolves, hasn't he? And he's somebody, maybe we should be worried about, Josh.
He's just the only player that I know plays for them. He's a striker. If someone's going to score, it's probably going to be him. I hope it's not him. I wish I knew more about the team, but unfortunately I don't.
That's all right, man. Is there anyone you're worried about going into it, Dean? I mean, Naki obviously still there, but they've got a few decent players as well. Harry Cornick's obviously there. He's a good footballer.
Yeah, that was the one name. And Scott, is it Twine? Is it the other one they've got?
Scott Twine, the midfielder.
Players in the middle. So I think he's grabbed a handful of goals for them. But again, I don't really watch much Championship football these days. I'd much rather watch like kind of exotic South American football or like La Liga or something like that instead. I probably should, but because my boss at work's a Sunderland fan, so he's always raving about their games, but I never really watch any. I don't keep up on it as much as I should, really.
And they are doing well this season, for a team with the budget that they've got, sitting 8th currently in the Championship. It's testament and to the good work that's being done there. It is a potential banana skin going into the game. I mean, is there always this fear that this is going to be a chance for our season to be knocked off the roll straight again, Josh? Because, obviously Vita's come in, started really well. Obviously the Forest result is not what we wanted, but kind of unexpected with the way Forest are. He's got to take this game seriously, hasn't he? Because he's got to try and keep building this confidence that was put in.
I think you can look at it either way. I'd hate to go out tomorrow. I'd love a cup run. But I think you can look at it both ways. You can look at it as in, if we lose tomorrow, that's going to be a massive confidence knock. Going into Newcastle and then Chelsea after that, just not going to be in good spirits. Or you can look at the flip side of it and you can say, right, well, if we go out tomorrow, we really need to focus on the league this season because of how dangerous the threat is that we go down. So the less games we play, the better, especially when other teams might progress. They play more games, get tired, drop more points. I think you can look at it either way, but personally, I'd like to win tomorrow and I'd like to go deep into the cup.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point, and actually leads me on to the next question I was going to ask you as well, Dean. So perfect, thanks, Josh. I had a question here in the YouTube comments, in sort of akin to what Birmingham City, not Birmingham City, it was Birmingham City when they won the League Cup and got relegated. Would you take an FA Cup just win the whole thing, but end up getting relegated at the end of the season? I don't know where I am on this.
It's so hard because there's that many permutations to it. Like, if we go down, how many players do we lose? What does the squad look like in the Championship? But I think, gun to my head, I'd probably take the FA Cup win. I think because us winning the FA Cup is it's a memory you'll never forget, and something that I've never experienced. So in my lifetime, and many Wolves fans haven't. So to take that, you look at Leicester, for example, they're a decent example. Yeah, it was the FA Cup and they won the league before, but then they kind of then went down and they've come back up. And you can also go a bit deeper on the exposure winning the cup would bring you. It obviously gets you into Europe. So you've got that European adventure the following season. You're in the Championship, but then how does that you've then got European kind of trips as well to go on. I think I'd take it. I think I would. The FA Cup's the FA Cup. You can't say, but regardless of the permutations, unless it's the club goes extinct, I think I'd always pick winning the FA Cup over most things.
Yeah, I think you make a fair point. You actually changed my mind a little bit on it. Because obviously I'm anti. I think Premier League, obviously, the holy grail for any football club. Where's your sort of standpoint on that, Josh? Because it's something that within my lifetime, especially in Dean's, we've not really been that successful in cup competitions. Would you take the FA Cup, or would you prefer the Premier League survival?
You can change the Championship to League One, League Two, National League, any league, and I'm taking the FA Cup. The reason you want to stay in the Premier League is really, in my opinion, if you're in the Premier League, because you want to win the Premier League or be able to attract better players to win things. So take the trophy, in my opinion. Like I've said, I have a fixation with the FA Cup. I've tweeted numerous times. Like if we won the FA Cup, I could jump off the Wembley Arch because my life would never get better than that moment. I would absolutely take the FA Cup.
Brilliant. Obviously, I want to move on to transfer news as well and some of the other things we're talking about. For those audio listeners, take a little break now. For YouTube, I was watching on YouTube. You'll stay with us. So welcome back in a second. Okay. Welcome back to those listening on audio. This is your Wolves Fancast preview show for the FA Cup third round away at Bristol City, brought to you by the Sports Social Podcast and FCQUIZ.app. There's been a lot of transfer murmurings already, Dean. Emmanuel Agbadou is already through the door. There's been a bit of a, I don't know whether to call it a throwing the toys at the pram or a bit of an upset from Nathan Judah on Twitter in the last couple of days. But he has brought some stuff out, talking about Wolves are wanting to sign another defender and midfielder. Looking at those, do you think we're talking first team players, or do you think we're talking potentially like squad players?
I think centre back. I think he'd want someone that can challenge to start straight away.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the midfielder, I think he just wants a different profile. I think he'd want someone that's a bit more attack minded, more of a kind of an advanced number 8, maybe, or someone that can play someone that's better at carrying the ball. I think he's probably the big USP that he'd want anyone coming in midfield. I think the rumours that you looked at, like Richard Rios, Gerson from Flamengo, like these players are people that they're ball players. They can carry the ball. They can play the ball. Gerson's dribbling ability is better than Richard Rios's, but Rios is better passing ranges. So it's clear they want something different to what we already have. So we have Gomez, we have Andre. That's the first two. But I think he'd want someone ideally that can come in, and he either wants someone that's better than the two we have, which I think is impossible for the price range that we'd be shopping, or someone that can operating multiple positions, like a Gerson from Flamengo who can play on the wing, he can play as a cam, he can play deeper in a midfield three. What we think Bellegarde is, but better. I think that was probably where the assessments come in. That's where he saw Bellegarde fitting into his system. But once he's seen Bellegarde in the flesh, he probably wants to improve on it. And then you've got Buba coming back as well. So you've got kind of 4 decent midfielders there in Doyle, Buba, Andre and Gomez, with Lamina likely to move on to pastures new. So I think with the midfielder, that's probably what he's looking for. A defender, I think it's probably another left-sided one. Like he's got Agbadou now who can be right-sided, even though Agbadou has played both sides, but he is right-footed. So he may want someone that's either an improvement or a genuine kind of competition for Totti. And then I think price ranges, we're probably looking to kind of 10 to 15 mil range, I think. I think they would entertain a loan if they could. Obviously, we've had the rumours about Renato Vega, which is Chelsea have knocked that back, but that was a loan inquiry we're led to believe. So you've got someone that could be left-sided defensive midfield or a left centre-back. So I think they're looking for this multi kind of faceted player who can plug in a couple of holes in the squad, which although they may improve one position, they also increase competition in 2 or 3. So I think it's a good outlook to have, but I think it'll be the loan market or these kind of more cheaper signings, 12 to 15 mil.
Yeah, and I think sort of we talked about it a couple of shows ago. We were talking about players who want to cover the positions, and it's something that obviously flexibility is going to be everything that Vitor Pereira wants. One position that we haven't really talked about, and there was tentative links come out, was about Kelechi Iheanacho and having somebody to challenge Jorgen Strand Larsen. We already said it earlier, Josh. So we need some quality in there to push him as well as having options to change games. Obviously, Iheanacho has a ton of Premier League experience because of Leicester, Man City. Is he somebody that you'd entertain bringing in and being part of this Wolves squad moving forward?
If you want an honest answer, you are unfortunately asking the wrong person, because I love Kelechi Iheanacho. Like football manager reasons, he's one of my favourite football players to ever play football. So for that reason, yeah, I'd love to have him in. If you're asking me with a bit more of a level head, if he's happy to come in for 6 months and play a bit part role, you know, you're not going to start every week. Strand Larsen's ahead of you. When he's tired, you'll come in, you'll come on for the odd 20 minutes at the end of games. I don't see the harm in going for him.
I think when it comes to Premier League experience, I think you can't really sort of buy that and find it easily. Welcome back, Gav. I know you were in the car earlier at the start of the show, so I couldn't really talk to you. But talking about players that are coming in, Kelechi Iheanacho, someone coming in, obviously has a hell of a lot of Premier League experience. Sort of asked Josh about him. Josh obviously loves him from Football Manager. He knows a lot about it too. Is he somebody that you'd like to see come in, you know, especially with his Premier League experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that you got to say is that he's different to Strand Larsen, isn't it? And that's the main thing, isn't it? If you want a striker in now, as long as he's a different option, you know, that's what you're looking for, really. And I think for Leicester, I'm not too sure how many goals he got in the Championship from, but he was their high scorer, I'm pretty sure. So he definitely knows where the back of the net is. And like I said, he's a different option to Strand Larsen. So, you know, if the money's right, you know, I'd definitely take him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I know you touched on it already, Dean. Vega from Chelsea, obviously, he was looked at. Is there anybody else we could look at, in your opinion, in terms of a loan market, bringing players in who could make a difference with, you know, helping the squad and fitting sort of the profile of player that Vitor wants?
I think if you just look at Chelsea's squad, there's got to be someone that they've got this like massively overinflated squad. There'll be somewhere like a Disassi or someone like that they deem as surplus to requirements. Obviously, you've got Cassidy, he's a bit different to what we need, I think, in centre mid. But they're looking to move players out because they're still looking to recruit. But I think loan deals are okay, but I only like the loan deals if there's an option to buy at least, because what's the point developing somebody else's player to keep us. I know we'll get the benefit of them playing well and keep us in the league or whatever, but then they go off to their kind of parent club and go that way. I think I'd much rather be looking at to tap into the South American market again, as we've done quite successfully. It's their off season now, so they're only just starting pre-season. So give it a couple of weeks, they'll be back up to speed before their league starts. So they'll be able to come in and hit the ground running, and they'll be quite fresh as well. So there'll be a nice some fresh legs once our players have got half a season in the bank. These players are coming in completely fresh again after a couple of weeks off, and they can give some fresh impetus to the squad.
Yeah, that's a great answer, mate. Looking at what Vitor Pereira said in his pre-match press conference, Gav, there's a specific quote in there that got me sort of interested. And it was that they've been given the profile of a lot of players, and they're going through them to find who's best for the solution.
Yeah.
Is that a change of tack, do you think, for Wolves, or do you think this is a little bit more transparency and clarity from a manager at Wolves saying, okay, actually, this is how it happens. We say we want a centre-back. It goes to the transfer team. They identify targets, and it comes back to the manager, and he says, okay, this is my preference. Because we've not really had that sort of clarity before, have we?
No, I think before it was kind of like, we don't know what the ins and outs of the whole, Mendes situation did we really, in terms of, does he offer us players and do we just take them or not take them sort of thing, and then build around that. But I think there's an element that we were always doing this sort of process. But now that it's out in the open and it's confirmed, and at least there's a bit of confidence, as us as fans now that that the manager is given the green light for these players. The last thing you want is, they're bringing in a player that the managers don't want, and then they're trying to fit him in, and we spent a lot of money on them, and then they don't work out, or and then they end up losing value. So at least with this now, like if a signing does go badly, then Pereira's only got himself to look at really in this sense as well.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the approach that we need to go with. Looking at Wolves in sort of the January transfer market, Josh, recently, we've been busy. We've brought in players like Cunha and stuff. Did you expect us to be very busy this window? And sort of how many signings do you expect us to make by the end of Jan?
I think, truthfully, we'll bring in one of either a defender or a midfielder. But yeah, we have been quite busy in recent January windows, but we've never been big sellers in January windows, which I'm a fan of. I know there's a lot of talk with Arsenal, with Cunha, and I was speaking to some Liverpool fans the other day, and they were on about Aït-Nouri, because obviously they want a left back there. The people I spoke to were confident if they get a left back, the league's pretty much wrapped up. And they were asking me, like, are you big sellers in January? And I was like, other than Adama going on loan to Barcelona, a player that's in and around the starting 11 leaving in January, I can't really remember the last time it happened. But yeah, I think we'll get one of a midfielder and a defender in, because I hopefully we're going to look for quality rather than just a number.
No, I think that's true. And looking at the whole squad, the squad as a whole, Dean, is there any sort of position that okay, Vitor Pereira, should be looking at this area. We definitely need to strengthen because we're weak. Is there somewhere that we haven't sort of talked about yet?
I think we've mentioned the striker one, which I think is an obvious one, but I also think kind of a threat for Gedge, sorry, in that kind of right number 10 role. Obviously, because Forbes is a winger, you look at kind of the only other person that plays that kind of inside right position is Sarabia, and he only got 6 months left on his deal. There's talk of him potentially wanting to move, so it's kind of he's also a high earner. So if we can get Sarabia out, even if we just kind of rip his contract up and say don't pay us a fee, we just want him off our books for the next 6 months, like crack on, and then we get somebody in who's kind of a bit more of a link player in that position, like Gedge is, because obviously Forbes isn't that profile, unless I'm completely missing someone that's in my head. Obviously, Rodrigo is a bit more out wide. Those inside forwards that Vitor tends to like. You got Cunha and Gedge, and then who else really is there? Like Hwang isn't really a link player. Like if you had a choice, you'd just put Hwang in the box and tell him not to get involved unless he's putting the ball in the back of the net. If you really wanted to. But I think, yes, a bit more, another forward player, but that could be someone that can operate up top or in that inside right position as well. It could be someone that can play the two positions and be a bit of a rotation option for Strand Larsen.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of the challenge that needs to be addressed, and sort of we have done well in recent windows and recent years of improving this squad and giving ourselves a good standing moving forward. Looking at the squad, Gav, is there sort of any player that you specifically think would come in and make a big difference? You know, sort of somebody who's quite realistic for our level.
No one really springs to mind, to be fair. I mean, we Dean will know the two lads that we've been mentioned was, I think it's Gerson and Rios. They're the two that you're looking at, really, aren't you? That will come in and change the way that we play in a positive way, really. And I think someone mentioned the other day, look, midfielder, they don't score, do they? You know, if you're a successful team, you get goals from everywhere. I mean, I know the defenders don't score that often either. But at least as midfielders, their job is to help the attack at points as well. So if we could get like a goal scoring midfielder, I mean, I don't think we've ever had one in the Premier League, have we? A goal scoring central midfielder, bar Neves, and that was like a lot of them were penalties. So yeah, some sort of box-to-box midfielder that can actually chip in with a few goals. To be fair, that would be the only sort of player I'd be looking at, and hopefully it's one of the South American boys.
Yeah, I mean, you've only got to look at sort of Brighton and what they've done in recent years, and some of the players that they've brought in. Yeah, they've had some fantastic players there. Hopefully, we move forward and we get some good players. I want to ask you a question, Gav, that sort of I've asked the other two guys.
Yeah.
First question: would you take an FA Cup? So win the whole thing. So win the FA Cup and get relegated.
Yeah.
And the other question: what's your earliest sort of FA Cup memory?
Would I take the FA Cup and get relegated? Man, I'd have to say yeah. Because we've been promoted 3 times, haven't we, to the Prem. So it's not without the realm of possibility. Even if it takes us 10 years, we get promoted again. But an FA Cup, we might not ever see that ever. There's no guarantee for that. So, yeah, 100% FA Cup. You know, I'd get a tattoo. If we won the FA Cup, I'm getting tattoos. I mean, I don't even drink. I'd get absolutely smashed if we won the FA Cup. So, 100% FA Cup for me.
You are aware this is going out and this will get clipped.
Mate,
and Stu will keep that in his back pocket.
I've said it already. I said if we win the FA Cup and we're in Wembley and I'm London Town, they're going to see a different Gav London Town is that day. I'll tell you that for free. I might not last very long. I'll tell you that. I'll be on the floor after 2. But yeah, 100% FA Cup. And then earliest memory, FA Cup. I remember we played Cambridge. We won 2-1. We scored 2 late goals. I forgot who scored. I think Kitely might have been one of them. 2007 or something like that. That'll probably be my earliest memory because I actually went to that game, to be fair. But yeah, that's probably my earliest one.
They make me feel old, these kids do, Dean. And I don't know how you feel.
I'm trying to figure something earlier, but
we talked about specifically the Newcastle game, 2003.
Yeah.
And literally, Josh's face just glazed over. He's like, "What are these 2 old men talking about?"
What's a Craig Bellamy?
Yeah.
But I've been fantastic. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. There is always this magic of the FA Cup, and I think it feels like we're in a moment where we are moving forward despite the result against Forest.
Yeah.
Sort of moving towards wrapping it up then. Let's get some predictions going out there because obviously Little Dan's put a little bit out there. A few slides in here with sort of betting odds and stuff. Is there anything sort of tickles your fancy on there, Dean? I mean, I know the one I'd like would be the JSL hat-trick. I mean, I'd love to see a Wolves player score a hat-trick again. But is there anything that you're sort of, okay, that looks really good?
From Dan's bets, I think the Guedes any time and Wolves wins probably up there. But as for my prediction, I'm taking my nephew Lucas to his first away game tomorrow, and he's predicted 3-0 Wolves. So I'll probably will have a bet on that at some point when we're down on the way in the car tomorrow. I'll ask him who he's saying first goal scorer, and I'll probably put that bet on as well. But as for Dan's, I think the most likely is probably the Gedge score and Wolves win. But I agree, the JSL one would probably be the best one.
So what about you, Josh? I know we talked about the little bet that you got on earlier, but sort of you're doing a bet builder. You know, you want an anytime goal scorer. You want to score. What are you going to go with?
Besides Wolves to win the FA Cup as an absolute banker, the one that can't fail, I think I'd have Wolves to win, Pedro Lima assist anytime, Strand Larson to score, and just to get a bit wacky and boost the odds up, Agbadou to score.
Ooh.
A debut goal for the big Ivorian. I'd love that. That would be a great start.
Yeah.
How about you, Gav? Sort of what is there anything on the screen for those who are watching on YouTube sort of stick out to you, or is there something that, you know, I've got this banker in the back of my head? What would you be going for?
To be fair, I was looking at what we've got on the screen. Yeah, Wolves to win 1-0 at 9-1 with Betfair. I think the decent value in that, just because, you know, it's going to be such a changed squad. I know you've already gone through like a predicted lineup already, but it's going to be so chop and change. I think he's not going to take it that seriously. I don't believe, just because of the position that we're in the league. But I think we'll still have enough quality, even with a rotated squad, to grind out a 1-0. To be fair, so yeah, 1-0 looks like the best one for me there. To be fair,
hey, mate, if any of you get any of these predictions right, I'm going to give you this nickname that was in the comments. Shagford. I think that's fantastic. Thanks, still with that. That's put an icing on the cake for me.
That's Gavin London. That is after the FA Cup win.
That is, yeah.
Absolutely.
You'll be all over that town. All over that town. But no, I appreciate you guys coming on and talking about it. Safe travels tomorrow down there, Dean. For you guys, are you going down, Josh? I don't know whether you said you were going down. Yeah. It'd be a good day out. I mean, Ashton Gate's a great ground. You're watching on TV, and you, Gav?
I mean, yeah, to be fair, I went down the last time we played them in the FA Cup when Cavaliero scored. But yeah, I'll give this one a miss.
Well, hopefully we can all come back for the review show a little bit happier and another win, and we keep marching on with Vita's army. Let's enjoy it, Wolves fans. Have a good weekend. Get the magic of the FA Cup alive. Thanks for tuning in with us, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers, boys.